So, welcome to the channel. My name is Stoiss. I am the owner of Stoiss Martial Arts. Well, duh. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking into the IJF 2025 rule sets. There's a list of new changes, and we're going to be going into talking about what the consequences of these rule changes might be. Not only what does it mean, what they say, but what might be the consequences going down the line. I will call myself a judo expert, but you might disagree with me. If you do, please go to the comment section and make sure that I know why you disagree with me, because you might have a different take on these things. I'm interested. I like having a good debate, and I want to find out what you think about this. I want to go deep into this stuff because I think some of these changes are going to be incredibly interesting. I think they're going to be incredibly good for the sport, but there's also some changes that I am kind of unsure how they're going to be interpreted and how they're going to be done in practice. Another thing that we do know is that there's different levels of judges. We have the national judges, the regional judges, depending on what country you're from, and then obviously we have the international IJF certified blue badge. And I'm sure that the blue badges, the international referees, are going to be doing a good job because they're going to be instructed and monitored by top branch. But when we go down into the individual countries, how are they going to do it? Maybe there's going to be some misinterpretations, and maybe, just maybe, they're going to be misconstrued. And that's what I'm curious about. So, without any further ado, let's go into the meat of the potatoes. So, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but looking at it, there's going to be some changes, and as far as I can see, the changes are going to be starting at the Paris Grand Slam in February. And here's a list of some of the changes. So it says here, new rules will be implemented for the first time in the international level during the Grand Slam 2025. This version will be used up to and including the World Championship Seniors, which takes place in Budapest in June of 2025. So it's, I guess we'll call it provisionary. And then they're going to be taking it up again and reviewing it and see if there's going to be some adjustments. Well, let's go into it. So, technical changes to the referee rules are following. And I'm basically going to go through it step by step. I have a bunch of tabs open right now because there have been recent developments. Things have come out from the IGF technical seminar. So, again, a lot of this might be speculation, but we're going to go deep into it. We're going to dive in and we're going to find out what is right and what is wrong. So, addition of the third score Yuko. As everybody who's old in judo like me, we remember the Koka, remember the Yuko, and today we only have Wazari and Ippon. Addition of the third Yuko in Newaza, it will be given at 5 seconds. So back in the day, it used to be 10 seconds to get a Yuko in Newaza, and now it's 5. I think this is about avoiding golden score. That's just my theory, because as we know, accumulating Yukos will never turn it into a Wazari, so I think the point of this is to have these little scores making differences so we can avoid those long tournaments. But as far as I can read this, it doesn't seem like we're going to get a Yuko for standing games. So honestly, that's fine. Then we have use of head to throw and defend allowed except in catted events, where it will be penalized with Judo. So that one I think is a little bit different. So using the head to throw, obviously it's not just going deep down with your head. As far as I can guess, this is about bracing your throw with your head. So let's say placing your head in the ground while you throw. Not sure about that, and I would love to see some comments about that, but we're also going to go into something deeper. Maybe we'll get a better explanation. All jacket grips and gripping under the belt to the level of the top of the inner thigh are allowed, but Judo will be given if using the jacket grip or under the belt to the level of the top of the inner thigh grips neck. Whoa, wait, oh, Did I have a stroke? All jacket grips, let's take this in bite sizes. All jacket grips and gripping under the belt to the level of the top of the inner thigh. So the top of the inner thigh are allowed, but Judo will be given. Okay. See, now it gets tricky. So if we're holding the jacket under the belt, so the jacket is tucked under the belt. It used to be that the jacket has to come out of the belt. which is why a lot of people do the shakes when they're fighting to rip it out so they have that long belt or that long jacket out of the belt. So ripping the jacket under the belt to the level of the top of the inner thigh, so not touching the inner thigh, but at the same level, is allowed, but Shido will be given if using the grip or under the belt to the level of the top of the inner thigh negatively. So I guess pulling down? See, that one I'm not sure what they mean. But if we're allowed to grip the bottom of the jacket under the belt, I'm fine with that. I'm just thoroughly confused what they mean. Hooking the legs with the hand or arm, leg grabbing, gripping the trousers, and touching the leg from the top of the inner thigh down is forbidden and will be penalized with Shido. So that's how it used to be, or how it's been since 2012, since leg grabbing was banned. But we, correct me if I'm wrong, it used to be if you grab the leg first time you get a Shido, second time you get Hanso Omake instead of getting all 3 Shidos. Kumikata will be giving 30 seconds time to attack. So this is interesting. It's not specified if it's from Hajime, the discount. So basically what I'm thinking is you go in, you get Kumikata, you wiggle around, and then they cannot penalize you with any Shido for like passive judo or negative. Well, I guess negative judo they can do. But I think this is about being passive in fighting. But does that count every time there's mate? That's interesting because it used to only be at the start of the fight. The first 30 seconds of the fight, you shouldn't be penalized. Again, not specific enough for me, but let's see. Bear hugging in Tachiwasa. So the standing game is allowed except with hands or hands and arms clasped. Forming a circle around will be penalized with Shido. Okay, so bear hugging used to be when you grab your arms as a thin person, by the way. I'm in plus 100, so but clasping, interlocking, and like this has been banned for a very long time because of spinal injuries, and especially a lot of that very Russian, Eastern European style wrestling, judo, and sambo style. But as far as I can see, hooking, bear hugging, tachiwasa is allowed except with hands. Bear hugging in tachiwasa is allowed except with hands or hands and arms clasped. Hands clasped or hands and arm clasped. Okay. Forming a circle will be penalized with Shido. So, what I've been teaching my students is when you do go in for sort of a more bear huggy thing, you need to have a bit of space in between your hands. When you go in and you grab the back or you grab the side, depending on where you're standing, you need to make sure that there's a distance between your hands. I guess it doesn't matter that much, but, you know, I'm more about not having my students penalized for just trying to actually do judo. But I do see it. Like, most of these changes, most of the rule changes that comes out is usually to avoid any kind of injury. So I understand. Unintentionally leaving the contest area in tachiwasa and newasa will be given mate. See, this is interesting because it used to be that you get penalized with Shido if you leave the area, but they're also including newaza. So let's just take the tachiwasa part of it. Leaving the contest area in tachiwasa obviously unintentionally means that you didn't do it on purpose. If someone pushes you out or you were running away, obviously you will be given a Shido. But in newaza, that's interesting. Because it used to be, back in the day, if you can wiggle your way out of the mat area, you will have a mate and basically tokera at the same time. And the reason why that was removed is because it started becoming a strategy for people to, instead of escaping holds or a strangle or an armbar, so shimawaza, kensetsuwaza, it started becoming a tactic to wiggle your way out of the mat. And I guess by reintroducing mate for leaving the ground or leaving the contest area in newaza is getting that back. I'm not entirely against it. I do like that we didn't interrupt newaza, but I also do like that there is a little bit of an out at the edge of the mat. So I'm conflicted about this. One thing I definitely don't want to go back to is back in the old day when we had Sonomame and Yosh and we froze people, we drug them across the floor, and then we started them again. I'm glad we're not going back to that. I remember that back in the 90s. That was horrible. Konsetsuwaza applied while performing a throw with high injury risk while Uke cannot escape will be penalized behind Tsukumake. Completely agree. Completely agree. If someone trying to purposefully hurt their opponent, absolute idiot move. We shouldn't allow that. That's completely fine with me. For Konsetsuwaza applied with techniques with lower injury risk where Uke has the possibility to escape, performed with 2 hands on 1 arm, will be Mate and Shido. So 2 hands, 1 arm could be wrap around and then holding it while you throw, like Soto Makikomi. Like there's a whole slew of possibilities here. Having it be Shido, I think, is fine if there is an escape possibility. I'm still wondering, what about the unintentional? Like, sometimes people throw and unintentionally an armbar sort of sets in. Not a complete one, but a slight one. I guess that would be up to the referee at that given situation if he wants to give a Shido for that. But I guess if it's unintentional, you shouldn't be giving a Shido. But yeah, let me know. Let me know if you disagree. Also, this is a live stream, but when we have this online afterwards in the comment section, please let me know what you think about these changes. Because I am curious about your opinions too. Especially consequences. The consequences of these changes is what I'm mostly curious about. And interpreting all of it in the right way. Reverse Seonage. So that recently got banned. I don't know if it was because the Koreans were winning a lot. Maybe. They're definitely great at it. But it's allowed now except in catted events. And I get why. Because a lot of these reverse Seonages, people will be landing on their necks. And especially if you are younger, like obviously, you know, we train our necks a lot and they get really, really strong. But if you haven't fully developed, I see it as a high risk. So let's move on to this. So this came out today. And as far as I know, this should be like the in-depth discussion that was in Istanbul and an explanation about these things. I saw a little bit come out. But instead of speculating, I figure, you know what? During the live stream, let's just have a talk about what is actually right and what is actually wrong by looking at the data or looking at the information that's come out. So, I'm just going to read it verbatim and go through it with you guys. And again, if you're watching the live stream, let me know in chat, say hi. Maybe you have some opinions about these things. But the important IGF technical meeting, which has just taken place in Istanbul, Turkey, in the presence of nearly 330 delegates from 79 countries, provided an opportunity to take stock of the rule changes which will take place in the World Circuit from the 2025 Paris Grand Slam. Florian Daniel Laskow, accompanied by Armin Bagdarsarov, head referee directors, took stock of the main measure. So at the end of the Olympic cycle, after taking into consideration the National Federation's suggestions and having... So the suggestions ended in July, as far as I remember. People, like all federations, could come with suggestions. Federation suggestions, and after having met and discussed with many judo experts, a set of refereeing rules were presented here in Istanbul with the aim of continuing to develop our sport. So judo is a dynamic Olympic sport, is therefore exposed to changes according to new training methods. The rules have to adapt all time to new judo situations. One of the main points concerns the scoring, where ippon remains unchanged, and Wasari will now cover the area of less than ippon but more than landing on the side to the rear. Okay. Ippon remains unchanged. Wasari will now cover the area of less than ippon but more than landing the side to the rear. That's not new. The new added Yuko score recovers the landing on the... Okay, so Yuko will be introduced in the standing game. Okay, because that's what we were curious about. Because we saw Yuko was added for the 5-second hold in Osakomi. Oh, so we are getting the third score back. Like, completely back. The new added Yuko score recovers the landing on the side and close to side towards the front, landing in the buttocks. Landing in the upper back, landing on the side elbow. Landing on the buttocks, that used to be Koka. So I guess Yuko is also Koka. Again, I hope this will pull us out of all of those golden score situations, because it was extending the competitions by a lot, if you look at it statistically. So the introduction of the Yuko in Newaza sees Osakomi of 5 to 9. That's what we talked about. Concerning Kumikata, we open the possibility of gripping inside the sleeve of the jacket in Tachiwaza and inside the jacket or the trouser in Newaza. Gripping under the belt is allowed up to the top of the inner thigh of the opponent, while gripping, hooking, touching the legs is still not allowed. Okay, so that's the thing we talked about with that jacket grip, the bottom of the jacket under the belt. You see a lot of people pulling out their jacket. Well, not necessarily your own, but when you're gripping, trying to do the Tachiwaza fight, sometimes you will see people do these jerking motions literally to pull out the other person's jacket so they can do a low grip, especially if they are hook style judo fighters. Interesting. Okay, so after taking the classic grip Hikite Tsurite, Judoka will have 30 seconds to prepare an attack. If they take any other kumikata, we will allow athletes to also have time to preparation for the attack, but that time will be limited. So it's one of those alternative kumikata thing. You need to do an immediate attack. That's old school. We know this. That's fine. They must be active as soon as a non-conventional kumikata is taken. Yes. Bear hug in Tachiwaza is allowed, except with hands or arms clasped. Forming a circle will be penalized with Shido. So we see the valid bear hug, double belt grip. Invalid or not valid, obviously, because it's clasped. Not going to be allowed. Judoka considered as being inside the contest area as long as one of the athletes has 1 foot inside. Okay, so technically, as long as one of the athletes has 1 foot inside, and in case of going out, it's Mate, and then Hachime, going out of the contest area in Tachiwaza or Newaza, intentionally will be penalized by Shido. Okay. So how I'm reading this is if you have contact with your opponent, you can literally have 3 legs outside and 1 in. It does expand the contest area a little bit, because as far as I remember, as soon as your opponent has both legs outside, it should be mate unless there is a throw being inserted. As Tori using the head to throw at senior or junior events is allowed. At cadet events, this will be penalized with Shido. Applying head defense as uke at senior or junior events is allowed, but at cadet events, this will be penalized with Shido. So using your head for defense used to be negative judo if you put it between you and the opponent. So it's not. Oh, I would love to see some examples of this. Nevertheless, landing in a bridge is still ippon. Diving to the mat with the head first is still considered dangerous and will be penalized hansokomake. Okay, so no diving. Great. Reverse Serenagi at senior and junior events is allowed, but at cadet events, it will be penalized with Shido. Being able to judge false attacks is very important, and that is why we will take the realistic chances for Tori to throw into consideration. Kansetsuwaza in combination with throwing techniques. Okay, so Kansetsuwaza in combination with a throwing technique with a low risk of injury where Uke has the chance to avoid the situation will be penalized with Shido, but Kansetsuwaza with Uke has no chance to avoid will be penalized hansokomake. Makes complete sense. And I think it's a great way Daniel is showing this right now, where you have the front drive, and this could be done if you're doing like a really low Taiotoshi, or if you're doing a far off even Kinken Uchimata, or some kind of sweeps. Even if you are one of those guys that are really good at Oguruma, I've seen people do this with Oguruma. I've also seen them getting both Shido and Hansokomake for it. Just as in Tachiwaza, where scores are awarded for Kodokan classified judo techniques or variations of them, where continuity and landing are evaluated in the Newaza, there will be a similar emphasis. For a pinning technique, a Kodokan classified technique or variation should be performed for Osakomi to be valid. Interesting. Okay, so as far as I know, Uragatame is still considered a Kodokan technique. Makura Kisagatame, not sure. There's definitely a couple of things that's going to be interesting, because you also see a lot of people do, and I don't even know what we would call it, but it's basically Sankakujime that gets turned into a pin. And I actually don't know if that one is considered valid anymore. But that's interesting. Putting more emphasis on doing clear, clean techniques, I think, is a good move for judo, making the sport better to watch. Because we're thinking about, you know, getting medals and developing judo into a positive way, but we also want people to watch it and understand it. So the application of the set of rules will begin at the Paris Grand Slam in February, as we talked about in the beginning. Starting in 2026, we'll continue a period of 2 years with a positive and attractive and understandable judo. Love it. Okay, so let's see what we got. Yeah, that's just standard stuff. But yeah, I basically opened up everything because I wanted to see what was going on. Oh, IBSA, the para judo. I actually have an IBSA. Ooh, I actually don't know if my IBSA is still valid. It's been a while. Could be. Not really gonna go into that. Oh, and then there's the academy. I'm not gonna go too deep into the academy because I want to keep this stream to be around the contest rules. But an interesting addition, let's call it a demand, that I saw per email the other day, is that from 2026, it is required that all national coaches attending any of the international events got the first level of the academy, and it takes about a year to complete the academy on the first level. So they better get started now, otherwise you can't be a national referee, as far as I know. Yeah, level 1 instructor graduated. I know a couple of people has been through it. It's supposed to be really good. Yeah, Lascaux is part of that. Oh, I didn't know Kossel was in this. Interesting. But yeah, not gonna go through that. Technical seminar, sports commissions, a little bit about the Olympic Games. Doesn't matter. Education Coaching Commission, introduction deeply rooted in yes. This is all about the judo values. Respect for the referee. Do not argue. Use proper channels for disagreement. I agree. We've seen, I'm sorry to say, but we've seen way too many, I don't know if we'll call them fights, but heated disputes, especially between referees and competitors. Not as much initiated from the referee's side, because the referees are actually very professional, but unwarranted attacks on referees, not physically but verbally. And then obviously we've had these issues where judo fighters are verbally attacking each other and sometimes even physically. And if you want to know who has been recently banned from competition in 6 months and up to 2 years, you can always go check it out on IJF's website. I'm not going to mention names, but we had a situation at the Olympics that definitely caused a lot of tension. But I think it's good that we're focusing on behavior and, you know, correcting these types of behaviors so we make sure that people are conducting themselves in a more respectful manner. Judo is a respect sport. That's what we tell the kids. And especially when you're competing on this high of a level, you have to show it by your actions that you are not only aware of the values of judo, but you actually try to live by them. I do see that my framing of this is kind of bad. Let me just fix this for you. Bloop, bloop, whoop. There you go. That was better, right? I'm sorry about that. Okay. Refereeing commission. Here we go. Okay, so this is what I wanted to look at. So scores in Tachiwasa, we have Ippon and Wasari. Yuko scores are counted 1, 2, 3, etc., but they do not add up to Wasari. So that's basically like in the old days. You can get as many Yukos as you want. It will never be a Wasari. And then we have scores in Tachiwasa, so Ippon is unchanged. Wasari is landing more than 90 degrees of the shoulder axis, but not on the back. So we're back to having Wasari being this half back, half side thing. Ippon is fully on the back. Obviously, we have this whole control, impact, and speed thing that we have to consider. But basically, we're mostly looking at impact. And then over rotation is still Ippon. Tachiwasa. Yuko is Tachiwasa defined as landing on the side, 90 degrees or close to side landing. Landing on the upper back. Ooh. Landing on the side of the shoulder axis and on elbow, or landing on the buttocks. But what about... Okay, so what about that sticking the elbows out? I guess that's still Shido? Or is just counted as a score now? Yuko will be awarded even if the shoulder axis is 90 degrees or close to 90 degrees. If the front part of the stomach, the front part of the hip, or the knee to the front are touching the mat. Will not be awarded. Will not be awarded. So yeah. So if you have an over rotation towards the stomach, more than 90 degrees, it will not count. Or 90 degrees, but the stomach is touching the floor, the hip is rotated to the floor, or the knee to the front or touching the mat. Okay. There is an escape. Oh, it's a Komi time. So 20 seconds, and Wasari's 10 seconds or more, but less than 20. 10 to 19. And Yuko is 5, but less than 10. So adding Yuko, I think that's a good move. Honestly, I think adding Yuko is the right move. Bear hugging. Bear hugging Tachiwasa is allowed except with hands or hands and arms clasped, forming a circle. Reverse Serenagi. We read all this, so it's basically repetition. I just wanted to see if there's something new coming out, but I'm excited to see if there's going to be videos coming out soon from IJF that shows these examples. I know there was a live stream from the event, and sadly I missed it. So I hope brushing up on these things is also helping you, and maybe we can start a good conversation down in the comment section. Because I wanna pick you guys' brains on this. In senior and junior events, Tori is allowed to use the head to throw. In cadet events, athletes are not allowed to be, Uke applying head defense. In senior junior events, Uke is allowed to use the head to defend. In cadet events, athletes are not allowed to use the head. Landing in a bridge will still be Ippon. Diving headfirst into tatami will be bending forward and downward while performing an attempt to perform techniques like Uchimata, Haragoshi, Seonagi, Taotoshi, Karaguruma, Surigoshi, Uranage, etc. It is forbidden to somersault forward. Yes, that's also incredibly dangerous. When Uke is on the shoulders and the back, it will be penalized with Hansakumake. And it should. Gripping under the belt. All jacket grips and gripping under the belt to the level of the top of the inner thigh are allowed. So basically at crotch level. If you negatively use the jacket and under the belt to level of the top of the inner thigh, Shido will be given. Again, the whole negatively. So I'm thinking to hold someone back or to pull them down, to weigh them down. I'm not sure where they're going with this. Gripping under the belt, hooking the leg with the arm, with the hand or arm, leg grabbing, gripping trousers, touching the leg from the top, the inner thigh down is forbidden. Shido. Still wonder if it's Shido then Hansakumake or if we just give regular Shidos now. Grip inside jacket trousers is allowed. In Tachiwasa, it's not allowed to grip inside the trousers because, yeah, that would be a leg grab. Kintetsuwasa, Shimawasa, that's the whole throwing thing. So, yeah, applying Kintetsuwasa, Shimawasa, and Tachiwasa without a judo throwing technique, or with a judo throwing technique with a lower risk of injury where Yuko has the possibility to escape, perform with 1 or 2 hands on 1 arm will be penalized with Shido. That's fine. Higher chance, Hansakumake, false attacks. Okay, see, this is something now I was interested in. So, false attack is considered when Tori has no intention to throw, or Tori attacks without kumikata or immediate release the kumikata. Yeah, so basically if he gives up. Tori makes a single fake attack or several repeated fake attacks with no breaking of Uki's balance. That's also what I just called step-in. So if you do like a bunch of step-ins, just, just marking on legs or just do hip bumps and stuff, that makes sense because basically you're being passive. You're trying to not be passive, but you are passive. So I get it. Tori put a leg in between Uki's legs to block the possibility of an attack. Oh. I forgot about this one. That's true. That's not allowed. But here's the new thing. Toria has no realistic possibility to throw. So basically, trying a throw where there's no chance of it happening. Ah, man. Okay. Okay, let's just rest on this one for a second. So Toria has no realistic possibility to throw. How are you going to judge that? And I mean, compared to all the others, like no intention of throwing, releasing, fake attack several times, Toria has no realistic possibility to throw. Is that just more of the same thing? Because there's plenty of situations where you will go for something you consider a chance to throw, but as soon as you get in there, you know, yeah, there's no way I'm lifting this person. There's no way I'm going to be doing proper kusushi on this person. There's no way I'm going to be flipping this person. In most situations, you will then give up or try to rotate to the ground and do a ground game. I feel like this might give a bunch of Shidos that weren't quite warranted. I don't know what you guys think about this. I think there is a realistic chance that a lot of people are gonna get penalized. I don't know if I agree with this one, because this is like a very, very, very subjective thing. Anyway, stepping outside the contest area intentionally, Shido, Newaza. Oh wait, hold up. This was what I was touching on in the beginning. So in Tachiwaza, to go intentionally outside the contest area will be Shido. In Newaza, go intentionally outside the contest area will be penalized by Shido. Okay, fair enough. That answered my question completely. Because I was worried we're going to go back to this situation where we could wiggle our way outside of the contest area to have mate so that we can get up again, instead of getting out of the situation naturally by doing some sort of countermeasure and some defense. That's good. That is good. Okay. Kumikata. Time between conventional Kumikata, classic Hikita Surita, and making an attack is 30 seconds if there's positive progression. Good. Osakomi. A throwing score will be awarded if there is a Kodokan classified throwing technique or a variation of it with continuity and valid landing. That's not Osakomi. That's Nagewaza. Anyway, an Osakomi will be called if there is a Kodokan classified Osakomi Waza technique or a variation of it fixing and control. Good. Shido in kata competitions, so not allowed to use the head to throw, not allowed to use the head for defense, not allowed to do reverse Seonage. Techniques allowed. There are Kodokan classified judo techniques allowed for all age groups. There are Kodokan classified techniques partially allowed, Tachiwasa, Newasa, Senior, Junior, and versus cadet events. There are Kodokan classified judo techniques that are not allowed, Kawasugake, Kanibasani, Dojime, Ashigarami. These are not new. Like, all of these have been in place since the 80s, with Kanibasani being the last one. Kawasugake, Dojime, and Ashigarami, as far as I remember, have been banned since the 30s. Not worried about it. Merci. Muchas gracias. So, that's all of it. That was interesting. I am interested to hear what you guys think about these changes. As I said before, I would love to see you guys in the comment section telling me about what you think about these changes. What might be the consequences of these changes, positive and negative? I see the only thing that I think could be negative is the misinterpretation. Well, there's actually two things. So I think there is a possibility of misinterpretations when we can do the jacket grip under the belt now, and we can do belt grips under the belt. So usually you're allowed to do overhand, but not underhand. Now you can grab the jacket with it being under the belt instead of pulled out. I do see possibilities for Shidos given for possible leg grab or leg touching when it was actually a valid grab, but mistakes happen, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Where I do see an issue is the rules about fake attacks, where let me actually go up and just read what it said. So Toria has no realistic possibility to throw. I see many situations where judokas walk in, try to throw without it actually being a realistic possibility. They do their best to do judo, and especially on lower levels. And we also know on lower levels, the referees are much more lenient. They're not going to be hammering down on every single infraction and giving judo left and right. But we also see it at a professional level where you just see an opening, you think it's good, you go in, and it's not. So how do we define no realistic possibility? That's the one I'm afraid of. That's the one where I think they're going to be delivering a bunch of unfair verdicts on people that were just trying to do a throw and they thought they had a good opportunity. Feel free to disagree with me. Some of you might. I am interested to see if Yuko also has a big influence on the time that we fight. We've obviously, with the new rules around golden score that was introduced a couple years ago, we've seen longer fights, a lot more golden scores, a lot more extended fights, simply because we want to give the judokas the possibility to determine their own fight. Back in the day, we used to talk about that the referee was an integral part of determining the winner, and we wanted the referee to step back and be more of an observer instead of being, you know, the one that does the outcome. The referee should be an observer. It should be someone who watches the fight and sees things happening and calls it, instead of being the one that actually influences the fight. And I think by adding the Yuko score, and a clear Yuko score as far as I can see it defined, can definitely make these fights be a lot shorter and avoid a lot of these golden score situations. Because we have to think back to, I think it was 2016 when we were talking about it. Mainly golden score was, instead of, well, obviously we can go all the way back to 2012, where we didn't want to do everything by hantai and figuring out which flag it was and kinsa and all that stuff. We wanted to have it be the judoka determining who was the actual winner, either by winning a point or by getting a shido. But obviously that made the fights longer. I don't think anybody ever expected so many fights to go into golden score, but when we look back at it, obviously it would, because there's plenty of situations, especially thinking of taking Cook out, taking Yuko out, where it wasn't always that straightforward. We had tons of wazari situations, or no score, or one shido, two shido, all those situations. And we have to think about the less scores we have and the less involvement to nuance things from the referee, the less possible outcomes can there be in a fight, which means we're going to have more of these situations. Anyway, I'm not going to take any more of your time today. Hopefully you liked this stream. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for everybody who stopped by, everybody who was looking. I see you guys. I appreciate it. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this? Was this the right move? And I will be there watching every single comment, responding to every single one of you guys, as I always do. So yeah, have a good time.